joined by our CNE, Karen Riddell. Karen?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and good evening, everyone. Just a short presentation tonight. So Matt, if you can pop that up for me. So tonight we're just going to give you an update on kind of the state that we're in comparison to where we were last month with our presentations that we're seeing at the hospital. So Matt, if you can just go to the next slide, please. So this slide will look familiar. We've looked at it over the last couple of months. The yellow is our non-respiratory visits to our emergency department. The blue line is our respiratory visits, and then the green is our total volume. So you can see that over the past month since January, our respiratory visits have diminished, and you'll see on the coming slides that replicated with the types of cases that we are seeing. And then there has been, as with that, respiratory decrease, but overall, our non-respiratory and ED visits are pretty stable. Next slide, please. So you can see here, the dark blue line is our patients admitted for COVID, and you can see a promising drop in those cases. So we were sitting with 85 presentations in January, down to 51 in February. Patients that are presenting with COVID, meaning we test all of our patients on presentation and admission. So that number is staying pretty steady month to month. We had 73 in January and 71 in February. So those patients are not necessarily being treated for COVID. They just have that as a finding when they are tested. And the orange line is influenza, and we've seen a really rapid decrease in those cases since December. We were down to 14 in January and only 1 in February, so very promising. And last but not least, RSV. I think we all remember the large surge in RSV cases that we were seeing in our pediatric population in November and December, and those numbers have come down significantly with 26 in January and 7 in February. So it's nice to see a decrease in those respiratory illnesses as we get closer to spring. Next slide. So when we're looking at our overall occupancy, even though we've had a decrease in our respiratory presentations, we're still seeing high admission rates and high acuity in our patient population. So we're still running, these are the numbers from yesterday, and they're similar today. MET and OLET, we're running at 107 and 108% occupancy, and that's with all of our surge beds remaining open. 23 admit no beds at MET and 28 at OLET. Our PEDS cases have dropped significantly. You'll recall previously we were running 18 and over patients out of 16, and now we're settled back into a much better capacity there, and only 1 child with a respiratory illness was admitted as of yesterday. Our NICU's got good capacity, and our ICU's got very good capacity at the MET site. Over at OLET, our ICU was running 19 out of 20 yesterday and 10 out of 12 in our CCU, but we have much better capacity today. So overall sitting well in our pediatric NICU and critical care beds, but our medical and surgical beds are running very tight still. And then next slide, please. So just a little bit about the ALCs. So as of yesterday, out of our alternative level of care patients that we have, 16 of those were for long-term care. Those 16 patients have been ALC for 228 days total, with an average of 14 days per person. That's ALC. And if we look back into September of last year, we had 33 ALCs. So we've had a significant decrease in our ALC for long-term care in the hospital. And they had a combined total of 913 days in hospital and an average of 27 days per ALC for long-term care. So we're seeing a significant decrease in the numbers of ALCs with the various provincial programs put in place. and with supportive home and community care and getting us access to long-term care beds in the community. So that significantly helped our capacity. So that's a good news thing. And then last slide. Our chair mentioned our town hall coming up. So we have 2 town halls next week. On March the 7th, we have an English town hall at 7 o'clock p.m. and on March 9th, a French town hall at 7 p.m. And you can register at www.windsorhospitals.ca so that you can get the link to join our town hall and get the latest with regards to where we're at with planning and what we're looking at with regards to the feedback we received from the community, our physicians, our staff, and our patients, and how we're incorporating that into the planning moving forward, and to also be able to get your questions answered. So do encourage you, if you've not yet registered, to go ahead and do that. And that is the end of the report for tonight, unless there's any questions.